teachings of Babylon. Back to the Babylonian priesthood. They fled from the Persians to set up a place where they could begin a systematic takeover of the world again. They went to the burgeoning empire of Greece and there set up a great acropolis. The king of Pergamos was so happy to have these intellectual and wealthy men there that he gave them the right to run their own government, and they had a Vatican City right there. They made their own coins. The most important temple of all the temples dedicated to the gods was this temple here. It was dedicated to the head of the Greek pantheon, Zeus, and in it was one of the great wonders of the world. It was a stone that was 40 feet high and 40 feet wide. It was a cube. It was black. A cube has 6 sides and 12 lines. And there was ever a fire kept burning on that to the mystery God, the hidden one, the 666 God. The hill was also a school for medicine and dedicated to the god Asclepius, the serpent god of healing. It was a system of potions and drug medicine, hypnotism. And they kept a large serpent there that licked the wounds of the people who came in. I believe Satan was healing those people. When Rome came in and conquered the world, it was not long after that the last of the priest kings of Pergamum bequeathed their empire or their priesthood to Rome. And there the cult of the sun went to Rome. The god Stur, or Saturnus, the mystery one, the hidden one, the number of 666, became the god of the religion of the Caesars. And those priests wore upon them this sacred golden amulet called the Sigilla Stolas, the sacred seal of the sun. The numbers of the decans of Babylon were placed on it, 1 through 36, and in each row it comes to 111. You add them all up and it comes to 666. And as they wore these on, they believed they were imbued with the sun god's power and that no power on earth would be able to stop them. Cardinal Gibbons, a great Catholic historian, on page 106 of his book, Faith of Our Fathers, says, the penetration of the religion of Babylon became so general and well known that Rome was called the New Babylon. Now that's a lie. Anybody who knows anything about history, Rome was never called New Babylon. They wouldn't call themselves New Babylon. They were proud they were Rome. But Peter was in Babylon. And the Assyrian church converted many in that area. But it shows that the religion of Babylon came to Rome. It was at this time that our Savior came to this world. And his people had so misunderstood him by compromises with the world. Compromises about the nature of what Christ would be like when he came to this earth. Compromises about the work that he would do for his people, the work he would do for the individual, the work he would do for his nation. They compromised their teachings in every conceivable way, with the result that they were pagans. The Sanhedrin from the time of Babylon had its own occult initiation ceremony, where men were initiated into a hybrid religion that was half Jewish and half Babylonian. This religion eventually developed into what was called the Kabbalistic mysteries of the Talmud, and is the reason for modern witchcraft today. When his people apostatized from him, they became the habitation of devils, they became a fiend, and they became the arch enemies of God's church. And that pattern's going to happen again. When Christ came to this world and he was beaten and torn, he suffered more than any other prisoner could ever have suffered. He was brutalized by the crowd, and the spirit of prophecy tells us that there was no criminal that was ever treated more inhumanly than he was. Everything devised by demons, disgusting, vile thing, was heaped upon his body. And he was beaten from head to foot. His flesh was torn to pieces. And he was a piece of hamburger hanging upon the cross. When those disciples grabbed him to take him down, there wasn't 1 inch of sound flesh left. They put him in a tomb, never thinking they'd see him again. But when Christ rose, he released into the world such a power to transform human lives that it set in motion a movement of destiny that could never be stopped until we're standing on the sea of glass. Those people could stand in the arena and they could take everything in the earth and the devil could throw at them, but they knew they had a better land to go to and nothing could stop them. But the greatest danger lay ahead of them. God had told the Hebrew people, don't do what the nations around you do. Don't make a compromise with those people. And now Paul had to give the same admonition to the Christian church. I know this, that after I depart, there are going to be men coming in that are going to deceive the church, teaching perverse things and draw many disciples after them. Don't let anyone deceive you, because at that time the Gnostics were saying Jesus is here now in experience. Don't let them deceive you. Don't listen to these people that say it doesn't matter what happens to the body. Only the soul is redeemed through correct knowledge, they taught. Don't listen to these people, because first the church has to fall away, and the very system that we're battling against now, the man of sin, the system of 666, sun worship, the daily, will have to be set up in the church, and then you'll know. Then you'll know. Simon Magus had tried to buy the power of the Spirit with money. He was an initiate into the Hermetic mysteries. He could do miracles. There was no doubt about it. Satan inhabited the body of that man. He eventually, after his work with the disciples there, and made his way to Rome. There his name was Simon Pethre, or Simon the magician, or the diviner. Simon Peter. Not the Simon Peter that you and I know of as a saint of God. But a great temple was established for him there, and Caesar had a statue made for him on the Tiber River. And there are many people gathered around this new religion of the true light, or the religion of knowing, the religion of Gnosticism. And we find out that when he died, his bones were buried in the divining serpent hill, the Vatis Khan. And there in the Vatican today, the one that they call Peter, Simon Peter, is none other than Simon Magus, the demon-possessed magician. That organization, as individuals passed off it, each one possessed, they began to spread throughout this world and established schools. The greatest Gnostic school was in Alexandria, Egypt. It was in that school that the Jews had apostatized, and now Christians, or these men claiming to be Christians. Simon claimed that he was Christ and had been crucified. But many of the leading families, the oligarchical families of Greece, were Gnostics. This is the Gnostic symbol on a family ring. Another family seal with a god of Brax. It's a Gnostic god. And this is the number 666 in Gnostic symbolism, with a serpent and the tail in its mouth. In 1945, they found in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, books written by Gnostics which indicated that the foundation of modern Roman Catholicism and evangelical theology, and I don't believe they have any right to that name, because every one of their doctrines is to be found in those Gnostic books. They passed their teachings on through initiation. They could not be persecuted like the true Christians because they believed that they could lie. Indeed, one Gnostic society believed you had to break every one of the moral laws of the evil god of the Jews before you could be saved. One group was called the Simonians, and or the Sodalites, and they believed you had to live in an indecent lifestyle in order to be saved. One group believed no women could be saved, so they had an initiation for women, making them men so they could be saved. Spiritually, of course. But these are basically the areas that Gnosticism had damaged the church with. These brilliant intellectuals thought they were so bright, gathering teachings from all the pagan religions around them, felt that everything in religion was an allegory of one secret doctrine. And so they allegorized the Bible away in their theological classes. They believed that only the pneumatic or the spiritual entity of man was redeemable, and thus they separated the concepts of justification and sanctification and put more weight upon the area of the work they would call justification. The end, of course, was simple. Gnostics did not believe that you had to obey in order to be redeemed. They de-emphasized the concept of prophecy and their place in prophecy in favor of the experience that they should have. And they brought in the speaking in tongues and supernatural revelation among every individual so that the apostles' teachings were no longer valid. They minimized the idea of disobedience against God in their search for salvation. They minimized the idea of miracles, teaching that every man, through certain mechanical, mental exercises, can perform the miracles of Christ. And they de-emphasized the concept of evil spirits. Their theology became a system of philosophy, comparing all the religions together. And the cardinal doctrine was that Jesus could not have been human flesh. No, he was only light. He had to be pure light. They had borrowed this from the Mithraists, who became the they became the state religion for 200 years in Rome. And they worshiped pure light, and the Gnostics picked that up. They taught that if Jesus